Well, good morning to all of you. We are swimming here in Pretoria. There's a lot of rain in Gauteng, and I think it's going to help the cricket team. But by the way, it's so good to see you. If everybody can hear me clearly, just give me a wave. This is just a greet, a normal Zoom greet. We've learned to throw some signs and wonders. We throw the signs, and you wonder what we are saying when we meet on Zoom like this. And I want to congratulate every one of you with the incredible impact that you are making in our world, in the lives of people, especially in the lives of children, with the power of the Word of God. That to us is, I think, the first commandment that the Lord gave us, is to spread His Word by making disciples. That implies that we have to put the Word in the hands and get it in the hearts of people. But that will not happen if you and I are not highly effective individuals. I'm going to talk to you about three things in the next couple of minutes. And I want to ask you to get ready with a piece of paper and a pen, or if you don't have something like that, grab your phone and be ready just to jot down one or two thoughts that comes to mind for you. So this is not so much about me talking. It's about you answering questions in your mind and making decisions about your own life. So the first area that we're going to talk about is you, your own health, the excellence of your own life. The second area is about the organization. And then we're going to end lastly with the concept of a weekly rhythm. So I will be sharing from our own experience and some of the mistakes that we've made and what we've learned. And I really trust that this discussion will today spark 3 or 4 quality questions and facilitate you to get to a place where you have answers for some of the challenges that you are facing. So let's start. Have any of you ever heard of the idea of work-life balance? If you have, maybe just a nod there. So you've heard of work-life balance. And I want to say I don't believe in it. I don't believe in balance. Okay? I actually believe in what is called a healthy tension. So what do I mean with that? If you want to write it down, rather, let's focus on work-life integration, not on work-life balance. Work-life balance means I'm giving a little bit of myself to my work, and then I give some of it to my family and some of it to myself. And you will forever be frustrated if you don't start to integrate those. We don't have time to talk about what I'm going to say now, but you can go and study the Bible. There's a philosophy in the New Testament. It's the philosophy of alignment. Think about this. We must love God, we must love people, we must love ourselves. What does the Bible say? It says, love the Lord your God and people as you love. So it puts those three in a particular order. God first, people second, and I am third. So it's a philosophy of alignment. That's integration. If we say you need to take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your work situation, and also manage to do what you want to do for the Gideons, it is the alignment of those elements. It's the integration of it that will bring about the success that you want to achieve. Everyone in this chat knows the experience that I have too many balls that I have to juggle. And, I feel like a creepy crawly in the fold-up. I don't know where to take and where to leave. There's just too much to do. So simply in the first idea of integration, here's my first question to you. Are you just as effective in dreaming, in putting down vision and strategy for your family as you are for your business? Are you just as effective in putting down vision and strategy and structures for the Gideon's role that you play as you are doing for your business? Are you dreaming just as much about your holiday with your family as you are dreaming about the others? Are you taking just as much passion and fun to your workplace as you are taking to your family? That is work-life integration. And here's a metaphor. If you can see my hand, let me tell you, one of the discoveries that I've made is that in the past, I would say, God is number one. He's the number one relationship in my life. And then I'll say, my wife is second, and then my children, my family, and then myself. There's a little mistake in that idea. God cannot be one of my relationships. God is supposed to be like my arm, the one relationship out of which my relationship with myself develops, out of which my relationship with my wife develops. It is spiritual integration. I live a life in the kingdom of God at home, at work, and in the Gideons, in the passion of my community service. So I want to challenge you today to start with these sets of questions. Do I have the same energy when I dream in all of those areas? Am I allowing God to talk to me about my family? Am I allowing God to talk to me about my health? Am I allowing God to talk to me about my work, wherever you work, and my community service? And then I want to end the first part of our discussion just with a story, a discovery that I've made. We talk about that we have time problems. I don't have enough time. And there's something flawed in that emotion. It's just an emotional experience. I don't have enough time for everything that I have to do, because everybody has got equal amounts of time. Why is it then that some people are able to achieve more and others not? And there's a little booklet, there's a whole series of books called The 1 Minute Manager by an author called Kenneth Blanchard. Ken Blanchard, you can just search for The 1 Minute Manager. And there's one little booklet in the series, it's called The 1 Minute Manager and the Monkey. And he talks about monkey business. Monkey business is identifying the next step and then asking, am I supposed to take that next step? I'll give you one example, and because of time, we're going to stop here. But that little booklet has saved my life. Let me give you one example. When I make an appointment with somebody, I started counting. It takes me approximately 6 interactions to make and to achieve an appointment in my diary. And if I run about 30 to 40 appointments a week, then you can imagine how that escalates into 6 times 30 and 40 interactions, a WhatsApp, an email, a telephone call, and all of those. And I realized that my secretary, who is very dedicated to our work, that she could be the one to take the next steps to have those 5 or 6 engagements. So you'll ask me for an appointment, and I'll ask you, please talk to Trish. She runs my diary. And all that I do is I put out blocks in my diary, and Trish takes next steps on my behalf. I'm still the one who's deciding in the end whether I'm saying yes or no. I don't give over control, but there are next steps that we are taking that other people could have taken. And that's why we run out of time. I always say in Afrikaans, jy het nie tydprobleme nie, jy het prioriteitprobleme. You've got priority challenges. So let me go back then to your organization. Let's talk about your role in the Gideons as a director of your area. And I want to ask you, please, would you write down these 3 words, give enough space so that you can make at least 2 or 3 notes under each one of these words. The first word is, this is what is expected of you as an area leader. And I'm going to use church terminology now, but you can then translate it into your own world. The first thing that is expected of me is not to be a pastor. The first thing that's expected of you is not to distribute Bibles. The first thing that's expected of an area leader is to be a leader. That's the first word, leadership. leadership. And we're going to talk about that very briefly. The second thing that is expected of you, of me as a pastor, is ministry. Ministry. And I think in your context, that is the people part. That is the interaction with the schools and the organizations and all of the places where you go and place the Bibles or any of the contribution. If I talk about ministry, it's my contribution to the church. All right, so the first category is leadership. The second one is ministry. And the last one, just as important, is management or organization. So here are critical questions towards these three. I'll give you an example. Many of the pastors, we have about 120 pastors in Doxa. Many of them think the first expectation of their life is to be a minister. So their home base must be in number 2. And sometimes they lead and sometimes they administrate. So what I've discovered is you cannot have ministry as your primary base if the job is bigger than what you can do as an individual. So one pastor who has to care for 250 people in a church, that cannot happen. You cannot care for 250 people. If Jesus had only 12 disciples, who do you think you are, John Symons, that you can care for more than 12 people? That immediately implies, let's go to leadership. What is leadership? Leadership, if you're making notes, it's the art, it's an art form of achieving goals. Here comes the key phrase, through people. It's achieving whatever the goal is. If you've got 500 schools that you want to reach, you are not going to do that in a year. You will have to raise up people who will achieve that goal on your behalf or on behalf of the organization. That's leadership. Leadership is the art of achieving through other people. And I assume that most of you have to ask the question, am I maybe doing too much ministry? Am I doing too much organization so that I don't get to leadership? That was one of the big transitions in our lives. And I realized that work-life integration will not happen if I do not understand my role in the organization. Here's an example. Many of our pastors, including myself, thought that every person who needs counseling, I have to counsel them. I have to say yes. It's my responsibility to do that. That is a ministry function. And then I realized the more individuals I counsel, the less time I have for the leaders that I could have raised up to do the counseling. And so we started with a counseling center, and I discovered a lot of people who have a passion for that ministry. They do it much better than me. And leadership is the process of building the team who is going to do the work of the ministry. So by the way, please go and look at Ephesians chapter 4, verse 11. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 11 says that he put in place in the church apostles and teachers and shepherds, evangelists. And he says these fivefold functions of the church, listen very carefully, equips the church for their work of the ministry, their work of the ministry. If you want to lead, you have to have time for your people who are doing the work of the ministry. You can also jot down Exodus chapter 33, where Jethro is talking to Moses. And he says, what you need to do is set up people. That's a leadership function. You set up people who can manage to counsel 10 and 50 and 100 people. And only when you set them up, they will choose what will filter through to you as the leader, so that, Moses, you have time for your leaders. And I'm encouraging you, even in my family at home. I am the leader, I'm the father, I'm the leader of my family. We've got 2 daughters and we adopted a 3rd. And if I am the one who's constantly doing the small tasks in the house, I will not have time. If I am ironing and I am doing the beds and I am mowing the lawn, I will not have time for my family. So it is to understand that we need to achieve those goals through people. That makes me a leader, and there's a lot of functions in leadership, including vision, team building, raising resources. Those are my responsibilities. Secondly, when we talk about ministry, I'm not going to focus there today because you in your team have to then decide what is the process of placing the Bibles, what does it look like, and all of the other functions that's included in your story. So for every one of our churches, we have pillars of ministry. It could include worship, it could include group life, it could include counseling, it could include evangelism. Those are the functions of ministry. And as a leader, I am raising up teams who will do that. My role is leadership. The role of the church, they are equipped to do the work of the ministry. I do want to spend a couple of minutes, and we have exactly 6 minutes left for our time together now. You will have an opportunity to ask questions, and we'll come back later to work with that. Let's talk about the third function. Now, what we do in Doxa is we put this in a form of a house. We say the roof is leadership. We say the pillars, the walls is ministry. The foundation of ministry and leadership is organization, or we refer to it as management. Most of my time goes into leadership, but I also have to organize. So my secretary does most of my appointments, but there is a percentage of administrative and organizational elements that I have to do. So that includes sorting out your calendar. It includes any reporting systems. And I've discovered that that reporting includes financial implications. So it's organizing of the calendar. It is making sure that I get information, how effective we are. And then lastly, checking all of the financial implications. Like I said, I've delegated to specialists who understand all of those. But I have to lead management. I have to make sure that everything is working in the calendar. It's my responsibility. My secretary will put it in the calendar. I determine the priorities. I am leading management. And you, I can imagine, has got a lot of organization to do. You need to type emails. You need to communicate. You maybe need to set up chats like this. And there's a lot of organizational. So what we've said in Doxa is we will employ specialists who will do that for us. We have employed a managerial person in every one of our critical parts of the organization. So we run 27 churches in 9 different cities. I have a manager, a person who's responsible for organization in every one of those 27 churches. We have a higher level manager who's responsible for management in every one of the cities. And you will have somebody in your team who's got a gifting for that. Allow them to do that on your behalf, to do the work of the management. But your role is to make sure that it happens, and you've got a champion who's running with that. I've discovered that there are very gifted people who are passionate about organization. And if you just get that person released, your life will change forever. So we're moving now in the last 3 minutes into the last idea of today. The first one was work-life integration. And I gave you a couple of tips on how my life was saved in that regard. The second one is organizational structure. What is leadership? What is ministry? What is management? And where do I give my time to that? Now, all of these play out for me in one of the biggest discoveries that I made in Stephen Covey's book when he spoke about the 7 habits of highly effective people. Please, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. God put this planet in a particular rhythm. We have a daily rhythm, a 24-hour wheel that turns. You have a 7-day rhythm. You have a monthly rhythm. You have a seasonal, a 3-month rhythm. You've got an annual rhythm. And if you look at your life, there are stages of life. You have your preschool, your primary school, your high school, your studies, your 20s, your 30s. You have your post-50s, which is your significance phase. I'm not going to go into the detail. We don't have time for that. But I want to talk about the 7-day ritual for a moment now, because I've discovered in Stephen Covey's book, if I get that right, if I spend quality time on each one of my critical functions every 7 days, miraculously, the quality of my life went to absolute new levels. You have to care for yourself every week. You have to look at a leadership function for your role every week. You have to spend time with your people every week. And with something like this, with Zoom, I meet with global leaders every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Technology brings people into my office, onto my phone, that I previously didn't have. And a last clue that I just want to give you is we actually, on an organizational level, have 3 different meetings for those 3 functions. We have a meeting for leadership, we have a different meeting for ministry, and we have a different meeting for management. So my last challenge to you is to take a 7-day program and put the big blocks in place and say, I'm going to live with a weekly rhythm where I give attention to all of my critical functions every 7 days. So there's so much to say, but I was hoping that these 3 ideas and these 3 challenges will stir some questions, and may the Lord, in all of his wisdom, set you up to be incredibly effective with the incredible, important task of spreading God's word. I bless every one of you. Thank you that I could speak to you today. Amen. Wonderful. It's good to see you all again. There were 1 or 2 questions, and the first one was also in regards to the first idea of work-life integration, meaning how do I take my spouse along on this passion that I have and the implications on my family. And the second question was in regards to the fact that when I used the example of my full-time staff, some of you felt, okay, but I work with volunteers. What are the differences and what are some of the dimensions that are relevant there? So shall we start just by talking about your family? I think whether you're just married or whether you're a father or a mother, it is your responsibility to live from the strength of a healthy family. And there's no way that I can save marriages in 5 minutes. But I can tell you that out of my 27 years with one wife and her 27 years with one husband, I have something that I did discover that could possibly just help you. So let me use this metaphor. If you have 2 circles, these 2 circles represent my wife and it represents me, 2 individuals. And obviously those circles become more when you have children. The key to relationship is to determine how much those circles will link with one another. So what I've discovered is some people say we have to have a fantastic marriage. We do everything we do together. I do nothing on my own. You do nothing on your own. We do everything together. That's what I call suffocation. It's not healthy. My wife cannot do everything with me, and I cannot do everything with her. That's not how God created us. We are separate individuals. We cannot have exactly the same friends. She cannot go everywhere I go. She's not here today. There are other responsibilities that as an individual we need to take care of. The second paradigm that typically happens in longer relationships is that we begin to drift apart. My world is developing, her world is developing, and then things can fall apart. So the key to relationship is to decide, what will we share? Coming back to your role as an area director and your passion for the Gideons, you need to ask the question, what about the Gideons will I share with my wife? And the best place to go is to this question. I am doing exactly the same with Viliana. I asked the passion question. What is Viliana passionate about that I can connect to my life and my world? So if we talk about the Gideons, for example, and say, for instance, your wife has just got a passion for caring and nurturing, she's a shepherd at heart, then you must answer the question, are there some of the shepherding roles, some of them, not all of them, in my responsibility to the people that I lead, that my wife can take care of? For instance, she can nurture some of the ladies who are in that team. But my wife, as an example, has got a passion and a gift for organization. So I need to answer the question, what are some of the organizational elements of my world that I want to share with her? And I don't suffocate her, she doesn't suffocate me. We don't drift apart because we've decided what is the part that we are sharing. Let us then transition to the other discussion, and we talk about the difference between full-time staff and volunteers. And I actually have a very, very, very clear understanding over 30 years of experience in church work and working with people. I've experienced that you can pay somebody a salary. That does not mean that they have volunteered for the vision and for the cause. So I do not really work differently with people who are on staff or people who are volunteers. Meaning, I do exactly the same thing. I ask the question, what is the vision that we want to achieve? The second question is, who's the team that I'm going to build to achieve the vision? And the work of Doxa is so big that we would run a percentage. We've worked out this percentage. We have about 25% of our church attendants say yes for a leadership role as a volunteer. What that means is to take care of a church, you cannot do that with 3 to 5 pastors. They need to raise up volunteers who will say yes to the vision. And the key role of teamwork is to identify the passion of that individual and bring that individual within their available time, bring them into their passion. Here's a story about a lady with the name of Lorenza. Lorenza's husband is a pilot for SAA, and he still flies, don't worry, they're still flying. And so Lorenza told me, you know, I'm going around the world with my husband, but I don't sense enough significance in my life. I asked her the passion and the skills question. Lorenza, what can you do? What do you want to change? What are you passionate about? What are your gift sets? And she was passionate about counseling, and her gift set was administrative. She didn't at that point have a gift set to be a counselor. So we invited her, and I asked the following question. I said, if that is your passion, let's now talk about your capacity. Jou passie en jou kapasiteit. So those are the two questions that I ask every volunteer. What are you passionate about? But what is your capacity? So her capacity was to organize, and I asked her, in her capacity, how much time would you have available for this passion that you have? And Lorenza said, I will dedicate a full Tuesday to volunteer in the passion of counseling and serving people who are going through tough times. And all that we did is we invited Lorenza to come into our office every Tuesday, and we started giving her the task of connecting with every person who wants counseling and then connecting that person to a counselor. By the way, over the last 3 years, Lorenza is now dedicating for free. We don't pay her. She does it because she's got a passion for helping people in their need. She does it for 2 days a week. And she enrolled in training courses where she's now qualified as a counselor. And it is incredible to see how passion and capacity is developing. Now, my role, I see myself always as somebody who's sitting on a horse cart and you've got 4 or 5 or 6 horses in front of you, and you have all of the reins of those 4 horses in your hand. And to do what I have to do, that is my team. And I am the one who needs to make sure that the right horse is in the right place and that they are capacitated with other people to run with what they can do. So every person who can just give 1 hour a month, or every person, we have people in Doxa who are volunteering a full morning for a full week, and they are just serving people. I have exactly the same approach to my full-time staff. I ask the passion and capacity question, and I make sure that I put them in the role that is relevant to what the team needs and the outcome that we want to achieve. So my encouragement to you is to go and read all of those little books of Kenneth Blanchard. It gives so many tools and tips. And by the way, Ken Blanchard is also a follower of Jesus. He's already in his 80s, but those booklets, the 1 Minute Manager and the Leader, the 1 Minute Manager on its own, the 1 Minute Manager and the Monkey, all of them are available for free in PDF format online. And may the Lord come and capacitate you so that you can be an effective leader of all of the volunteers that you have. Just a last 10-second comment. Many people say, I don't have people. How do I raise volunteers? Now, a very simple key that we've discovered is that people want to do life with their friends. And the best question, if I have an area where I don't have enough people, I go to the people who are already committed there and I ask them, do you have a friend who you would love to have participate in this passion, who would want to share your passion with you? And as you build your team with friends, they will stick and they will bring more friends in the future. May the Lord help you with wisdom in that regard. I'm going to get onto my jet ski and go home now. God bless you. Bye-bye.